How about Carmen? You want to say hello? Oh, we lost Carmen. Couldn't log on. All right. We lost link too. All right. All right, Jody, let's get started. So everyone, this is Jody Bransetter. She's a consultant, TA consultant based in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yep.
And I had her on my podcast a few weeks ago overall. Towards the end there, we talked about self-publishing a bit, and I thought it'd be a great topic for the HR Lancers group to come on and find out how you do that. But I'll quickly tell my self-publishing story. So I wrote a book 15 years ago, which is this book here, when I was doing a lot of resume writing and career coach stuff back in the day. And I paid a company called Morse Publishing, I think it was $1,500 for, I want to say 100 copies, something like that. And they sent it to me. I got a big box in the mail. I got it up on Amazon. Amazon would basically email me when I had an order. I would ship it out myself at that point, but I'm sure it's changed since then. So I want to hear about that, Jody, in terms of how you distribute this thing. But that's a quick story of mine. It's 100 pages. You can read it in like 2 hours. But what this does, it's a great marketing tool. And it's like bringing a business card to life almost. That's the way I looked at it. And it brings you instant credibility. And I'm sure you'll agree with that, Jody. But that's my quick story. You can't buy this anymore, but I have a few copies left if anybody wants one. It's a bit out of date, but anyway. But Jody, welcome. And what's new since we last spoke?
Hello. I'm in my co-working space today, so that's new. Kind of excited to not be in my house.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, but just been living the dream, like I tell everybody. Have a lot of potential clients and doing some really cool stuff with the evolution. So to tell you guys just a little bit of who I am and what I do. So I own my own consulting business. I started it back in 2018, and I focus on talent acquisition, process improvement for small to mid-sized companies. And then I have a second company, Talent Acquisition Evolution, which is a community for recruiters where they can connect, learn, and work together. And that is here locally in the Cincinnati area. And so we try to either do workshops or conferences or whatnot, just to kind of keep us updated in what's going on in talent. And I've been in HR for 20 years, since I was 2. I'm a very young person here, but been in it for 20 years and so passionate about our industry. I love hiring people. I love talking to people and helping them find that next opportunity. So, so excited when Chris asked me to join and kind of talk about my book experience because I actually loved it and was amazed by the simplicity of how you can truly actually become an author. I think it's one of those things that a lot of people assume it takes just so much work and so many years upon years to collect all this information when actually that's not the case. It could be the case, but I was able to find a really nice process that helped me create the book as well as market it and get it out to be published. So I'm really excited to be here to be able to share my journey and then answer any questions that you guys have about it.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate that. And welcome to Cheryl, who just joined us as well. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, how are you?
Excellent. So Jody, just before we get to the book, so just tell them, let's go back to your transition into consulting. We spoke on my podcast a few weeks ago, and you told me, I think you were kind of tired of the rat race a bit in terms of the hectic pace of your HR job. That was the kind of the main impetus to go into work for yourself. Is that correct?
Yeah, I worked for a large company called Navient that used to be Sallie Mae, the student loan company. Alyssa's shaking her head. I'm assuming because you're a student, college, everyone knows Navient for the good and the bad. And I was one of their directors of talent and had a team of 9, and we recruited for 4 subsidiaries underneath Navient, and it was an amazing experience. I loved it. But the stress, the time I traveled, it just wasn't working for me and my family. I have a beautiful 5-year-old and decided that that really wasn't the kind of career that I thought I wanted. I literally thought I wanted to be a chief talent officer. That was my goal in life. And once I got to a point where I could do it, eventually I realized it wasn't my goal in life. My goal in life was to have a service and a purpose. And so consulting seemed to give me that more. And I could give back to organizations that are here in Cincinnati. So I wouldn't have to travel. I could still do what I love and still hang out with my 5-year-old.
So your first client, how did that happen? Did you already have them in place before you went to consulting, or how did that work out?
I had decided I was going to go out on my own. I want to say like around November of 2017 was when I made that decision, and I started kind of tossing around ideas about the business and the company. And I did give 2 months notice to my organization. So I gave notice in February, had to work that through. And so when I was doing that, I actually partnered or connected with another HR consulting company. And that's how I got my first gig, was partnering with them. So I had sent them my resume and said, if you ever have any TA needs, I'm moving into this consulting type space. And they did. And so that was my first gig, was, partnering with them and kind of working for them on a client site.
Excellent. Excellent. How long before you say you kind of made it as an HR consultant? Was there an aha moment there?
Just recently, I feel like this year, which is kind of crazy after everything that we've been going through as in the world. But once I understood who my ideal customer was really when I had the aha moment that I think I was going to be successful. And I started actually getting opportunities in the space I wanted to be in. So that was literally at the end of 2020, when I felt like I had kind of grasped who I wanted to be and how I wanted to work and who I wanted to work with. And then all of a sudden things started to really kind of push through.
Awesome. All right. So for everyone, here's Jody's book. It's called Hire by Design. It is, how many pages is it here?
It might be a little bit more than yours.
Yeah. It's 107. Well, your book is bigger than my book, but same amount of pages. So a couple questions. Let's see here. So first of all, how long did it take you to write it?
So I made the decision that I was going to write a book in February of last year. And the process of me completing it to the point where I had a experienced editor edit it was probably around May, June timeframe.
Okay.
So it was a pretty fast process. I utilized a book coach who gave me some tools, and the whole goal was to try to write a book in 12 weeks.
In 12 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, might take me a year to write. Probably a shame. Okay. So what was the first thing you did? You got a book coach? Is that how it all started?
Yeah, actually, I wasn't looking to write a book. It was always something in my mind, because just like what you said, Chris, it provides credibility. People, believe in who you are once you write a book, which is kind of crazy. But I knew I had something in me to do, but I wasn't planning on it for 2020. And actually, my book coach connected with me on LinkedIn and did an excellent job selling me on a conversation. And I started talking to her, and she really gave me the confidence that I could write a book. And then she gave me the tools to help me be able to, actually finish the book. So that was the process.
Yeah. And where do you find a book coach? What was that process like?
Well, no, she actually found me.
Oh, so she found you. Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't looking. She actually connected. Yeah, she connected and said, "Would love to talk to you." And I'm like, her tagline was like, best-selling author. So I'm like, ooh, I want to talk to a best-selling author. So I was like, yeah, I'll talk to you. And then she asked me if I would want to write a book. And I'm like, never really truly thought about it. Let's dive in. And I asked tons of questions, and we had another conversation, and I had more questions at that point, and then decided, I was like, yeah, I think I can do this. And it was pre-pandemic, everyone. I was not prepared for a pandemic writing experience, even though a lot of people think that's a great time to write. But when you have a 5-year-old, it's not a great time to write. Nothing is great to do during that. So, so yeah, it was kind of created and decided before that.
Now, is there, I assuming, just kind of fee involved here with this coach, or?
Yeah. So, full disclosure, I like everything that I spent. So, I had a book coach. She gave me the tools to kind of understand my voice as an author. She provided me with an outline to help me structure the book. She was kind of my bounce off idea person. And then I also hired her to help me with getting marketing materials. She helped format the book so it could be an ebook and paperback. And she also helped with getting it onto Amazon. So she did that part. I also hired, I had an intern who did my first edit. Then I had an actual editor, so I paid her. And then I also paid for a cover design. So all in all, I spent probably about $8,000 on writing the book.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I probably spent a couple grand, but I kind of did most of it myself. I don't think I had an ebook version, but what's the difference between writing a regular book and an ebook? Is there?
It's just formatting. And honestly, after doing this, there's a lot that you can do on your own. Like I would never spend that much money again. I understand it now. I was very scared of Amazon, and it's actually not that hard to use, let alone to format. So you can actually go onto, like if you create an author account through Amazon, you have the capability of then utilizing their tools to format for free. So you don't have to pay someone to format, but you can format the same book to be an ebook as well as a paperback. So it really is just how you format it is the difference between an electronic book and the regular book. So if you got my book as an ebook, it looks exactly the same, just you had smaller pages, right? And you just wanted to make sure that there wasn't these weird gaps. So you might change the size between paragraphs or stuff like that, but it's really just making sure it fits what you want the Kindle experience or your cell phone experience to be like.
So you can do this formatting inside of Word or something like that?
You can just write in Word, and then you can put it into the Amazon website and into this format, and then it's just like a system that you look at and you can just kind of play with how the book looks.
So you upload the file, and then you can basically this kind of visual interface you can use to format it to your liking.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think you can do Word or you can do PDF. Either way, you can upload it into it and pull it through and be able to see how that's going to look. And then you can, once you do that, you can actually get a link to the book and get it on your Kindle or your phone. And you can go through it without anyone buying it, just to kind of see, does it look right? Is there any issues? Like I used a couple of fonts that were, I thought, a little too aggressive. So we changed them to be not as like dark and thick print. Yeah, I just played with it. My book coach told me what were the best fonts to use. So I was able to use her guidance on that as well. And then the actual cover design, I used 99designs.com.
Okay, I was going to ask you how much you pay for that. What did you pay for the cover?
$400, I would say. I could be off, but $300 to $400. I used 99 Designs. I love that because you got all these different people who created, book covers, and you got to like look at them and tweak them, and then ended up sending it out to my network and asking them what was, vote on your favorite. And then even from there, I had another like level of iteration of changing the colors and stuff. But yeah, I used them, which was great. But there's also a software where you can create your own book covers. That's very affordable. So you can actually research and do it yourself. So if you feel if you're a designer and you want to design your own cover, you can absolutely do that. That's another option.
Yeah, 99 Designs is a great marketplace for if you're looking for a logo, a book cover, a t-shirt design. I mean, I remember getting logos on there from all over the world. Basically, designers compete essentially, and I had like 100 logos to choose from.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I had a
it's
hard
awesome.
time. I had a hard time picking a logo. They were so good.
Yeah, the designer I ended up going with, he was in the Philippines.
Okay.
So yeah, so, and he designed, I have the book too, he designed this part as well as the back. So, and then we ended up not putting anything here because it's too thin and it really messed with the Amazon pieces. Because once you have this, like once you have their design, you then have to input that into Amazon and it has to fit their formatting in order for them to print it for you.
Okay, so that's my next question, printing. So who does that?
Amazon, they do it all for you. So it's an instant.
On demand, essentially?
It's on demand. So you can get it out there on Amazon's website and they'll print it when someone is interested. And then also you can get your own books. So you just pay for the print. So I think it cost me a little over $2 to purchase my own book and then I can sell it myself. Or Chris, I do exactly what you said. This is now my business card. So I use it because a business card could be $2. So I'm like, I might as well give them a book.
Yeah, I mean, it's still cheap to
yeah.
print the book.
Yeah, so I use it for, I'll sell it myself because it is a better margin if I sell it myself versus Amazon. So I'll do that, but that means I have to mail it. And Chris can tell you I'm very horrible at mailing. It takes several weeks for me to sometimes get to the post office. But I also can autograph it, which people seem to dig.
Oh, look, you autographed mine. Thank you.
Yeah, I did. And then but then also it has the Amazon as an option too, which I do like because obviously I can't do it. You know, it gives someone who doesn't know me access to my book. And then you pick your price. You can make those decisions yourself, how much you want to charge. It'll tell you, it's different between a paperback, hardback, and a ebook.
Okay.
But I want to say, hold on. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it.
Percentage?
Yeah, it's they take the cost of printing it, if it's a book, plus a percentage of selling it for you.
Gotcha.
So like they'll take the $2, like I said, that it costs to print, that always goes to them, plus, and so you see that. So you'll see how much money they're going to take from that book from you, and then you can make a decision on how much you want to charge off of that. And it's different for a Kindle. That percentage, obviously they're not printing a Kindle, but they still take money out for that. And you can have as low as 99 cents to however much you want to sell it for. So there's a very kind of wide variety of price points. So that's one thing I looked at was I was trying to figure out what's the best price point. I'm a very cheap person in general in my own life. And I'm a giver. So a lot of times I just want to like hand over things to people and I had to like push myself and say, no, I did this. It's worth money. I need to get paid for it. And then, I was able to do it. And Darren just asked Amazon Publishing Service. I actually had it self-published. So the book coach helped me publish it. But it's a self-published book, so I didn't do it through any kind of publishing house. Okay. And
did you look at that at all as far as like getting?
I asked about it because I was curious. The thing I found out really, one, it's really hard to be a first author and get published. But two, they kind of own some of those rights of that book, so they can tell you what to write about. And I didn't really like that. I wanted to be able to write my own book. And have it in my voice, have my opinions, I wanted it to be me. So I didn't even, venture down that rabbit hole of seeing if I could find, because I know like Sherm does publishing, like Pam Saget did a book through them, The Talent Fix, which I really like.
Yep.
So, I thought about, should I reach out to Charm? But I'm like, do they really need more money from me? No, I'm just going to do this myself. So yeah, that was self-publishing. I think is an excellent tool, especially now that you have like an Amazon, where they kind of help you through that process. So very user friendly.
Or you can write what you want, and the money you make is yours. It doesn't go to anybody else.
Exactly.
But what is your price points, by the way, for ebook?
Yeah. So the first thing I did when one of my goals with the book was to become a bestseller for Amazon, and the whole logic around that, obviously it helps with your credibility, but there's a game you play in order to become a bestseller. And the bestseller, you have to really work hard to get people to say they would buy your book. So the strategy that the book coach provided me was the first 2 weeks, let's do a Kindle only ebook and put it for 99 cents. That way you can ask anyone, hey, I wrote a book, do you mind spending $1 on buying my ebook? So more people will say yes, and then you can open up your network to anyone and everyone. And the goal was to get at least 200 people to say yes to buying your book, because if you can get to that point, depending on the categories that you use, it's a pretty no-brainer that you'll get bestseller on the day that you launch. After that, I shifted to regular pricing. So my Kindle's $7.99, and then my book's $15.99. And I did look to see what other talent HR books were, how much they cost. So I tried to stay in line with what they were doing.
Gotcha. So you making maybe $10 a book, something like that?
Yeah.
Probably. Very cool. Very cool. Again, for those of you who just joined us, this is Jody's book here, Hire by Design. There's a link in the chat there. Questions from the audience. I've been asking a lot of questions myself, but what else you guys got? Here's your chance. Most of you are muted here. Let's see. Dan, you want to say hello?
Hi there.
Hi. Got any questions about self-publishing?
No, I just jumped on the call. I got an email and jumped in, so I was just listening.
Awesome.
Hey, Jody, I have a question.
Yes.
First, thank you so much for going over all that. That was actually a lot of, I think, great information. So thank you. Can you tell me a little bit about that 12-week process of writing your book? And I guess, first of all, like why you set a goal that was that aggressive? And is there a way, I guess it sounds like you had an outline. So maybe did you chunk it out kind of like a chapter by week, and how much time per day were you spending reaching those goals? Week to week goals?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to do it that fast because I felt like if I didn't push myself that far, I wouldn't actually do it. So I knew that if I didn't do 12 weeks, it was okay. But I definitely didn't want to make this. Like I was listening to one podcast and someone said it took 7 years to write a book and it was a good data book. Like I really like, I'm reading it. So but I'm like, how would I remember what I wrote 7 years ago? I have mom brain, like no way. So I really wanted to have that structure just to make sure I did it. Because if I was going to spend money on writing a book, I wanted to make sure the book got done. So that's why I was really interested in that format of like 12 weeks. What my process was, the outline is first, understanding, okay, what do you want to write about? What are the chapters? So you first kind of just think about what each chapter is going to be. And then the format I used was the first thing you want to do in a chapter is a story to gain attention, to get people to want to read the chapter. And then you take kind of from that story what you want to speak about. So insights, best practices, what did I learn? Okay. Maybe data around it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I took
and
care
then
of it.
At the end, you focus on summarizing your chapter, and then you do a spoiler or kind of get them to the next chapter. So kind of tying those two chapters together. So that was the format. And so what I ended up doing was I figured out what each chapter was going to be. I either took stories from my past experience where I found case studies that I felt like made the most sense to use for that chapter. And then I built my takeaways. I added additional stories when I felt like I should. And then that summary, and then the you know, kind of getting them to that next chapter. And so I did that all first. And I also had a doc where I was putting links or content that I knew I was going to use in the book when I was going to write it. So if it was a story that I had, I actually wrote the story right then and there. So, because I had already thought about it. And then I would, like I said, just put like links to the case studies I was interested in or whatever data I wanted to add to the book. So I did the outline and the research all at the same time. And then after that, what your body has to feel comfortable writing. So you want to write at the same time each day. So what the book coach told me to do was to take 2 hours a day at the same time. And that was my writing time. And that's I was writing only 2 hours a day. And eventually your body gets used to writing at that time. And so all of a sudden stuff really starts to, your creativity, your content really starts to flow. And that happened. I do believe that happened for me. It started to be much easier by the end. And so I did that. I ended up not getting to do 2 hours like at one time because of the pandemic. So I got 8 to 9 and 11 to 12 were the 2 hours I got each day with my husband, able to watch my daughter so I could focus. And I ended up having to work on the weekends too, just because of everything that was going on. And then the other piece that I felt like was really good takeaway from her too was that you do one chapter, you submit it to your editor, and you go to the next chapter. You never go back. Because if you go back, you're never going to move forward. So once you completed that chapter, go on to the second chapter. If you have an idea, like, oh, I should have put this in the chapter, make a note of it, put it to the side so that once the editor is done reading it and doing their editing piece, you can add that story then, but you want to make sure you do all of them. And then you tell the editor that you don't want them to provide you with any of the chapters until you're done. You give them each chapter when you're done, and then once you're finished with your 10, 11, 12 chapters, you then tell the editor, I'm ready to go, and then they start sending you the edited chapters. You correct the chapters you have, send it back, and then let them edit one more time. And then you edit it and put it all together, let the editor read it one more time, all like just for the whole flow of the chapter. And then you're done. You don't edit it anymore. Because if you keep editing it, you're never going to publish it. So 2 to 3 edits should be plenty. And you have the ability to tweak it when you get it into Amazon. So that's the other kind of thing about going straight with the ebook. If people start reading it and they start seeing any kind of grammatical errors or anything like that, you have time to fix it before you push out the paperback. Once you push out the paperback, it is what it is. You'll have to like recreate it. And then you have people that have paperbacks that have spelling errors or something. So I would, it was really nice because that helped me keep my flow. I think if I was able to go back to the first chapter, I would still be writing my first chapter today. And if I could edit it 100 times, I probably would have. Like I could feel myself wanting to do that as like a person. Like I want to keep editing it until it's perfect. But it forced me to say, nope, 3 edits and we're done, and let's push forward. So it really was kind of keeping you really focused on each step and making sure that you got each step done before you went to the next.
Very cool.
Nice. That's interesting. And what are your thoughts about length? It feels like a book like this should be kind of content heavy, but not long. Like I guess maybe it's insight heavy, but not something that
This is a quick read, I would think,
like
right,
an
Jody?
academic book. Yeah.
Yeah. So my audience for my book are HR professionals as well as like executives of small to mid-sized businesses. So I took they're not going to read a 300+ page book. So I went with the, wouldn't it be great if they could grab the book and read it on an airplane on the way somewhere and on the way back? So it's probably like a 4 to 5 hour read. From what I understand, you can really have a short book if you want, if it has the content that you want it to have. You know, I had a goal on average to have 3,000 words each chapter. Not every chapter was like that, but that was my goal, was to have an average of 3,000. And then I had, I wanted to make sure I hit 30,000 words. So
30,000 words. Huh?
Yeah, and I had 10 chapters. So that's how I created that goal. It was literally, I was like 3,000, I got 10 chapters, 30,000 words. And then I am a doer, like I love having things that do. So my book and stuff has templates in it too. So I did add some additional content, but as templates so that people could actually use it moving forward. So it's not exactly 107 pages. There's actually some templates and stuff that people can use. And then that's a great way to put a spin in it to get your email list. So like Amazon doesn't tell you who buys your book. So you have no clue who they are and how you can like connect with them again. So I had a little spin that I said, you know, I have a template in here, but if you want a PDF version, come to my website. And then I ask for an email address and they get all the templates. So it was a way to kind of build my email list so that I was retaining some of the people that were hopefully buying my book.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I assume that writing a book, that your goal wasn't to make money, it was more about marketing your consultancy.
Yeah, you make no money off the book itself. I mean, it's pennies. I think Amazon sends me these really sad, pathetic chats quarterly.
Yeah.
It's not a lot.
Not worth 12 weeks of your time in that regard, but it's marketing your consultancy.
Marketing credibility. So since I wrote my book, I now have the luxury of asking to be paid to speak. For some reason, now that I have a book, they seem like they would like to pay me. Not all the time, but I've had multiple paying gigs at this point, which has been great. And yeah, and it's to help my marketing business, to help me, you know, excel in my consulting. You know, it's all of that. Like that was my goal, and I really felt passionate about the subject in a way that I wanted more people to know about it than just me telling them. So I wanted to have another avenue to get that out in the world so that people can learn about design thinking and how talent acquisition can use that methodology. So it's kind of twofold.
It's an amazing marketing vehicle. I mean, I remember when I published my book, like I got on the local news and things like that. I'm like, wow, it's like overnight, it's just like people think of you differently if you write a book. And I definitely felt that after I did it, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I'm doing more speaking. People are actually asking me like, hey, can you talk? You know, and I'm like, oh, cool. You know, it's given me the avenue to be able to get on podcast and talk. And it's if someone buys my book, awesome. That means someone else is reading it, which is great. But I also want them to look at me and say, maybe Jody can facilitate our, you know, candidate journey mapping. And she might be the best, you know, consultant for that. So it just is that way to hopefully enhance me as a consultant. And I love being able to say I'm an author. And I also love being able to say I'm a best-selling author. That is pretty damn cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I love your stat around the 30,000 word total. If you think about that, like the average blog post I write is probably 700-800 words. So you're talking like 40 blog posts essentially is the equivalent of a book like this, which is doesn't seem that daunting if you think about it that way.
Yeah, and especially if you already have content. So I know, Darren, you said you have a blog, but it's not out there right now. But if you have content there, that's content that you can be using for a book.
There are authors out there that took their blogs and turned them into a book.
Yeah.
Across industry. So.
Yeah, I've been looking at moving I had a website, but I decided it's just too much work, and I'm moving everything into more of a Substack.
Substack newsletter.
It's just so much easier. Like I used to just like, maybe it's because I'm so interested in web design and programming that I would spend a lot of my time futzing around with my site, and just like that would take away from time that I needed to be creating content. So now with Substack, I can just focus on content and not worry about like managing my website, you know.
What's your area of expertise, Darren? What do you like to write about?
It's actually very similar to Jody. I mean, I have a recruiting background, and I've always worked in actually design and UX and UI, and you know, in my last job, I worked at an experience design firm, a close competitor to IDEO, who I know you're familiar with, Jody. And so it was around that time that I started also applying design thinking to solving people problems. And so that's part of what I like to do, but I'm also very much embroiled in the people operations aspects. So you know, helping companies design and launch an applicant tracking system or a metrics capability within the company, and you know, how to use data, metrics, analytics to help make decisions about people. So kind of all of those things.
Darren, you're like my step brother from another mother. Like we have stuff.
Yeah, it seems that way. I was looking at your
like
profile.
loves, because people operations is something I love too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely something that attracted me to this webcast.
Awesome.
I think design thinking is one of the most underutilized methods in HR too. I would agree with you on that one. So I'm glad you wrote the book. Definitely need it.
Yeah, I when I found it, I was just like, oh my gosh, I had no clue there was a methodology out there for us, because it really, I mean, it just fits so well. But then once I started really looking at my experience, I used a lot of design thinking without knowing it through my career, with using empathy, observation, brainstorming. I mean, this was stuff I was doing on a day-to-day basis. I just didn't know there was an actual methodology around it. That I could actually structure what I was trying to do and make sure I was, you know, there was definitely some failures in my career where I wish I would have done a prototype first and then failed and then tried again.
Yeah.
I do have a question, Jody. I know you spoke earlier about, you know, this concept of people thinking you have to have like 20 years experience and an expert in an area before you can write a book. So for those who don't have that experience, but maybe are passionate about a subject matter, like you mentioned, what pushes you with that drive? Do you feel like you were more research oriented, like you mentioned, gathering other resources and kind of piecing it together? Do you see that as kind of leading the way to writing the book? Or I guess that's where my curiosity is for somebody who doesn't have that confidence or experience with a particular area in HR.
Yeah, I mean, I think that research is really good to be able to find some case studies that are kind of helping with your opinion or what you want to write about. The other piece that you can do is also interview people and then add their content in there. So I actually did that with Frida Poli, who's the CEO and founder of Pymetrics. I asked her to speak because it's a very human-centered approach to neuroscience, you know, game situation with pre-employment assessment. So you can absolutely be reaching out to people. And something I will say is we are actually very helpful people in HR and talent. You know, Frida totally helped me, didn't know who I was. I was just a consultant who literally put their system in one of my clients' possessions. And she was like, they were like, yeah, we want to be a part of this. But then like I reached out to some really cool people and they were willing to write me testimonials and stuff. And I never thought that would happen. So I think if you reach out to people and say you're interviewing them, and then the only thing I would do is just make sure like there's no like legality issues as far as if they give you stories about their company. And then also I would give them the ability to read it, their chapter that they're in beforehand, and give your blessing again, just so you know that they feel really comfortable with how you presented them in the book. But I would definitely be interviewing people and asking them questions just as much as your research.
Thank you, Jody. And I had one more question in terms of, you know, Darren brought up using the book as a way to market your consultancy, right? So do you think it's important to have the consultancy first, or to use the book as like, this is my consultancy, or how do you see those two working together? Or would you change the way that you did it looking back?
I think you could go either route. I think you can absolutely write a book and then start consulting around it, or it could be kind of your launch into it. I definitely would not have tried to write a book when I first started my consultancy because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. It's taken me some time to really evolve into who I am as a consultant. So I don't think I was prepared because I kind of jumped in like completely 100% before knowing what I was doing. So I think it's just based off of personality and what you feel like would make the most sense. But I definitely wouldn't hold back on either. You know, I wouldn't be like, well, I can't write a book until I'm a consultant. No, go ahead and write a book. Or I can't be a consultant without a book. Go be a consultant and then write your book. Like, don't make this to be something that is just such a big deal that you just feel like you get frozen into what you want to do.
Okay, my last question is, if you could pick a book that needs to be written in the HR space right now, what would be the topic?
So many. Hold on, let me think about this. Oh, I mean, I think I would love a book that really highlights HR in a positive way and how we actually are and impact the business. And shows examples of HR people who are doing that so that we don't have such a bad rep in the world.
I got the title right here. HR is not a cost center.
Yes, right. I mean, HR does matter. What did someone tell? Someone said it. Oh, someone gave me, like, they say HR is a human roadblock. And I'm like, oh, that hurt, you know, that just stung. But if you think about it, a lot of people see us in such a negative way, or they only see us in negative ways. So they only see us when they're in trouble. They only see us when we say no. And so they don't see any of the other wonderful work we're doing, and therefore they have no clue what we do. Or they think we just push paper around and throw parties. You know, so I feel like people just don't even understand, like people outside of HR don't understand what we do and how different it is, right? Like recruiting and compensation, like I couldn't do compensation analysis to like, I would go crazy. So, you know, there's so many aspects of HR that people don't even understand.
Awesome.
Thank
Well,
you.
it's almost 3. I think we should wrap it up, guys. Jody, this was awesome. A lot of great information. I can't wait to share this and get the replay out to the audience as well. I think they're gonna really enjoy this one.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Thank you so much, Jody.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jody.
Darren, Alyssa, Eileen, and the rest of the crew, thanks for joining. And if anybody has any suggestions for the next show, let me know. By the way, new job just posted on HR Lancers, temporary HR. Let's see here. HR manager in Chicago for the Tribune Publishing Company just came on the site. So take a look at that. It's remote, I think. You can do it. And it's on the site right now. So just came in. All right, everybody. Well, have a great day, and we'll see you next time here on HR Lancers Live.
Bye.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.